Hey, Oak Hill Church, this is Pastor Ben. Can you think of a really good TV show or series that you've started watching recently? Now, maybe you're in the middle of binging one right now on Netflix or Amazon Prime. And speaking for myself, I recently started watching a new series with my wife, and it just never ceases to amaze me at how genius the storytellers and producers of these TV shows are. I mean, it's just incredible. If you've ever been gripped by a good show, all of them have those elements that just get you hooked, right? The twists and turns, the ups and downs, the character development and the plot line, the main character having to overcome some adversity, and of course the part that I dread the most, and perhaps some of you can relate to this, how each episode is just long enough to draw you in and then boom, the episode ends. It just stops. There's no resolution. There's no clean wrap-up. The weight of the show and your patience just frustratingly hangs in the balance. And maybe in those moments you feel like screaming, "What? That's it? But what's going to happen? I need to know." The suspense and the cliffhangers that we're left with can be the best and the worst of all time. Now, over the next couple of months, we're going to be journeying through a preaching series that we're going to be calling The Story of Joseph. And this story takes up by far the most real estate in the book of Genesis. It's like a full-length feature film or a show with multiple seasons. And like most of the TV shows that we just described, this one has it all. It grips us with its twists and turns, ups and downs, adversity and challenges. It's filled with jealousy and family strife, hatred, hope-filled dreams, forgiveness, and best of all, resolution. This story will take us across the pastures of Palestine to the shores of the Nile River as we encounter the young man named Joseph, whom God will use to enact his purposes and bring about salvation for his people. Now, for most of us, when we think of the story of Joseph, we naturally think of the young boy who was the favorite son of his father. We think of the colorful coat that he received, the hatred and resentment of his brothers, being sold into slavery and then rising to become Pharaoh's right-hand man, and in the end, forgiving his brothers for their wicked actions against him. But if we're tempted to think that this story is just a moral lesson on forgiveness, or if we think the main takeaway is to just be more like Joseph, then we're going to be missing the bigger picture. And in the weeks ahead, we will discover that through the story of Joseph, God is writing himself into this story as the main character and player throughout each episode. This story is ultimately about how God works his will through everyday life and ordinary events. You'll notice there are no crazy miracles. There's no parting of an ocean or bread raining down from heaven. There's just the day-to-day. But it is in these ordinary events that occur in the life of Joseph that we see God's greater involvement in all of life's events in the way that he ultimately directs it for his purposes, for his will, and for his glory. And as we hear this should be reassuring for us in that God continues to work in our everyday, ordinary lives to bring about his purposes and his will, and it's all for his glory, and it's for our good. As Joseph reminds his brothers in the peak of this series in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, as Joseph is reassuring his brothers of the true nature of his forgiveness for them, he reminds them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So God is the main actor in this story, and we'll be reminded of this very thing every week, how even God can turn even the most challenging obstacles into opportunities to show us his grace. How he can use the things that are meant for all the wrong reasons and work them into something good. I hope you'll join us over these next few months as we take a look at this story. It's one that you just won't want to miss. You'll get hooked on it, right? And we're going to get to begin episode 1 together on Sunday. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you then.